If you want to have an AI answer a legal question that involves reading statutes, it's going to have a much harder time finding all of the relevant primary sources than it is actually interpreting them. I'm going to walk through an example of this using the Claude web app, and then I'm going to explain why it's actually way better to actually download all of the laws onto your computer, put them in a folder, and then use a coding agent like Codex or Claude Code to do the exact same analysis for you. All of this is totally free, doesn't require a Westlaw subscription, and works in a basic $20 a month AI plan. The question that we're going to be answering is the following. What are the statutory steps and deadlines for forming and operating a New York professional service limited liability company, and what happens if membership changes because of death, disqualification, or transfer? I purposely chose a question that's possible to answer solely by reading statutes. I just kicked this off in Claude, and as you might imagine, in order for Claude to get the right answer, it has to read the right statutes. If it doesn't read the right statutes, the chances that it gets this right are very, very low unless it happens to have remembered the relevant statutes. But as it turns out, finding the right statutes requires kind of a wild goose chase over the internet. And if we take a look at its thinking trace here, it seems to have remembered that section 1203 of the New York Limited Liability Company law is probably where it wants to look. And after it does that, you're going to notice it's going to Justia, and it's looking at a bunch of other sources like the New York Senate itself. Let's actually go over to the New York Senate website where all of the laws are totally free and public. And I believe the one that it's talking about, if we scroll down here, is Limited Liability Company Law. And again, we're going to have to wait a few seconds. And what article is it? That's going to be Article 12, I believe, because it said 1203. So we're going to click on that one. And then 1203 here is formation. That's going to be one of them. And if we actually look over here, 1204 is rendering a professional service. So it's probably going to want to read that one as well. Here's the actual text. So if Claude's able to find this, and then it's also able to find section 1204, and I'm sure there's some other ones that I'm missing as well. If it's able to read all of those, it's probably going to be able to give us a good answer. Okay, and if we take a look here, it's reading section 1210, and it looks like it failed to fetch some of the sites. So it's actually wasting brain power just trying to figure out where the law even is in the first place. And I've cut a bunch of this out. It's been running for well over 90 seconds now, and it's only finally starting to output an answer. It did find correctly Article 12, and I believe it read all of it, but it's really hard to see just by looking at it. Now, if we take a look down here in part of its answer, and again, this is not legal advice. This is just what Claude is telling me. It's telling me that from section 1210, that on death or disqualification, the PLLC must buy back the interest. So let's go ahead and check that. And just on a cursory look, it does seem to be correct. If we look at what I'm highlighting here, a professional service limited liability company shall purchase or redeem the membership interest of a member in case of such member's death or disqualification pursuant to the provisions of section 1209. So pretty straightforward reading comprehension exercise for the large language model. But that did require a lot of work on the part of the AI. It had to find all the relevant links. It had to figure out how to navigate the New York State Senate website. It was running into some issues with access in the first place. AI doesn't read websites in the exact same way that you and I do. It's not quite like it's just clicking around. And you'll also notice that every website has a lot of information that's not relevant, like the header up here. It's got a lot of these links. Really, it just needs this part here, and all the other stuff is just noise. And I will remind you guys that AI tools like Claude and ChatGPT have a finite amount of brain power, and it's called context. And the more brain power that you waste on stuff that's not relevant to the problem, like navigating websites, the higher your chances of hallucinations are. So it's not just slower, it actually is far less accurate. Really, if you wanted to make this as easy as possible for Claude or ChatGPT or any other AI tool, what you do is actually copy and paste, like this, all of the relevant statutes into a chat here, and then you would just ask Claude the exact same question and tell it, hey, only use the statutes that I pasted here. That would make it as easy as possible, and it would reduce the amount of chances for hallucinations. Now, of course, in order to actually do this, you would have to manually go and find all the statutes and copy and paste them, which is probably a lot slower than just having Claude find it in the first place. Now, what if you actually had downloaded on your local computer every single law in the state of New York? If you look at my Finder, that's exactly what I've done. If we look here, we got ABC, ABP, ACA, ABC, ABP, ACA. And the reason I'm pointing this out is I've literally downloaded every single law in the state of New York. If we go down here, and there's quite a lot of them, we go to LLC, we're going to see a file here that I call sections.html. If we open this up, it's going to pop open in my browser, and you'll see up here, this is literally a file that you can just open. And I've actually got every single law downloaded. And so if we look up, for instance, like LLC 1209, we are going to see this exact statute. And I pulled it up over here just so you guys can compare. It's the exact same text. So disqualification of members, managers, employees, if any member, comma, manager, employee, blah, blah, blah. And we see the exact same thing here. So I've downloaded all of the laws, which sounds a little weird, but they're all on my computer. They're all in a file here. And what I want to do now is actually use a coding agent that has access to all the files on my computer and is easily able to search things and ask the exact same question. Now, we are in what's called the terminal here. This is something that programmers use a lot. If you're an attorney, what I'm using here is called OpenAI Codex. It is the coding agent offered by OpenAI. It is very similar to Claude Code, which is the same product but offered by Anthropic. It is like talking to ChatGPT or Claude. The only difference is it has access to everything on my computer, and it's able to write code to help it solve problems. And what we're going to do is actually ask it the exact same question, and I'm going to put in a few extra things that are basically me telling about all the files that I have locally. And so we can see here, here's the same question. What are the statutory steps and deadlines for forming and operating a New York professional service, limited liability company, blah, blah, blah. And we're going to go ahead and ask it. And I know it looks a little scary, but it's the exact same AI. It is the exact same technology that you see in the web app. It just has access to all the files. And you're going to see here that it's actually able to search over all the titles. So it's aware of everything that I've downloaded. And this file, which might have this scary HTML suffix and might be a little bit intimidating if you're an attorney or if you're not a programmer, is actually optimized so that ChatGPT can pull out all of the relevant sections. And when I was talking about the best way to have ChatGPT or Claude answer this is actually just to copy and paste all of the relevant sources and ignore all of the nonsense like the header and all of that navigation stuff. This is exactly what I've done here. If we go back over into the terminal, we're going to see its output, and it's actually running code. So it wrote a Python script that allows it to search through this data very, very efficiently. And you'll notice that it's able to figure out, of course, that Article 12 is where it wants to look. And it's reading a lot of stuff. It's not just reading the statutes that Claude read. It's also reading stuff like LLC 203, 206, blah, blah, blah. And it's much, much easier because every section is in the exact same spot. And the way that it is able to read is very straightforward. It doesn't have to go to the web. It just has to look in the file and run the script that it wrote for itself in order to access this. And if we look over here, it's going to give us an answer. The answer is much faster, and it's talking about some of the other stuff like articles of incorporation. That's coming from LLC Law 203, and then PLLC Law is going to be 1203. And then it's going to go into its actual answer. And again, death, disqualification, or transfer, it's talking about LLC Law 1209. Now, the reason this approach is actually better is not just because it's faster or because it's free, but you actually have full confidence that the LM is able to find everything. Every single statute is here, and it has an easy way to read any particular statute that it wants. It doesn't have to go to Justia. It doesn't have to hope that it's able to fetch it on the web. It's already got everything. So if you've got the statute and it's on your computer in a folder, a coding agent is going to be able to access it very, very efficiently. And what's cool is if you actually take a look, I've got a few other jurisdictions downloaded as well. So I've downloaded laws from other states like Illinois, Florida, California. I've also got the full U.S. code, so every single U.S. statute. And I've actually got the CFR, the Code of Federal Regulations as well. And each of them looks a little different in terms of how the files are structured. If we take a look at references here, this one is gigantic because the CFR is really, really big. But we'll click on Title 14 here, and we'll open this up. And this is literally all of Title 14 of the Code of Federal Regulations. And again, I know it's really ugly if you're looking at this as a human, but it's not optimized for you. It's optimized for a coding agent, or it's optimized for an agent to just run on your computer and search for you. And the reason this is cool is if you want to do analysis across different jurisdictions, this actually becomes very, very easy. It's very cheap, very fast. You don't need a specialized tool other than OpenAI Codex or Claude Code. And you have full confidence that the AI is able to read everything because everything's already broken up like this. Now, I am grazing over an important detail, which is how I actually went and got all the laws in the first place. It's not like you can just download everything in this format. And of course, I used Codex and Claude Code to make this a lot easier. But luckily, laws are public. They literally have to be because everybody needs to know them. You don't actually need a Westlaw subscription. You do not need anything paid. All the stuff is free. You can download it all locally. And if this is something you're interested in setting up for yourself, please reach out to me or let me know in the comments because I'd be happy to walk you through this for free. I've actually packaged up these laws in a way that's easy for you to download if you already use a tool like Claude Code or Codex. And I'd love to be able to show you what it looks like. So if you found it interesting, leave a comment below or reach out to me. I'm also going to leave my email in the description. Let me know what you guys think.